Welcome back to Sprague River Homestead. This week, there are so many wins to talk about. I don't know if I can get them all in. So let's go.
All right, so been busy in the garden the last couple weeks. Finally got the last of the beds cleaned out. We've got tomatoes and peppers going, potatoes. I just finally got around to planting some chard and some kale. I'm fighting something, either chipmunks or birds or something that keeps digging up the seeds. But this year we have opted not to run a sprinkler system. I'm actually hand watering everything. Couple of reasons for that is, one, I never really felt, even with 5 sprinklers out here, I never really felt like we got good coverage. But the other part of that is, as you can see, we've got a lot of weeds in the background, a lot of weeds between our beds. And so this year, by not watering everything and just focusing on the water on the beds, one, I'm not fighting the weeds as much. I weed eated like last week and they're not coming up because they're dead. It's the joy of being in the desert. But I also noticed I'm getting better yields. Like, I've actually got strawberries on the strawberry plants for the first time in 4 years. Our asparagus has done wonderful this year. The herbs are looking great. So that's about all that's going on in the garden.
Thanks. So you saw last week that I'd made the firebricks, the junk mail firebricks. So these are actually pretty darn dry. We've been in the 90s to 100 degrees every day, and with single digit, like 8 to 9% humidity, these things are almost ready to put in a box and put in storage till the winter. So if you haven't seen this yet, or you don't remember how to do this, I'll put a link up here in the top corner. You can watch the video from there. But these babies are nice and dry and ready to go. Kind of hard too. And sadly, I will mention that the Suburban is down again. So we had the transmission fixed. It ran great for like 3 weeks, and then the radiator started leaking from one of the seams. So it's got 200,000 miles on the Suburban. So I've got a radiator coming next week. It's already shipped. I headed up this way, so I'll change that out. Thankfully, it's pretty much drain the coolant, take all the pieces off, take the radiator out, put the new one back in, put it all back in, put fluids in it, and should be pretty simple to do. But yeah, when you got older vehicles, you just got to be prepared. They're going to start eating you up in maintenance, so you got to decide, is it worth it or not? This thing, as Nikki says, is the best thing she's ever bought, so we're going to keep on fixing it. Now, I've mentioned in past weeks all of the fencing that we've been doing temporarily for the goats themselves, just moving temporary pastures piece by piece. If you look behind me, this is a row of fence I actually put in this morning before it got too hot. If I step back, you can see that's pretty close to being all in a line. So that is 28 fence posts. It runs from one of our pastures all the way out to our edge of our property. And that will be a string of field fence, basically, some netting fence. Now, these are all spaced 10 feet apart, and I will say, if you don't have confidence in the gauge of how to measure between it, if your feet aren't like a 10 to a 12 size and you can step it off with your shoes heel to toe, get you a set of PVC. So if you see behind me on the tractor, there's a gray piece of PVC that is exactly 10 feet long, so you can just lay that out kind of piece by piece, doing it there. If you need 8, cut 2 feet off. You need 12. Cut 2 feet off another piece, put it on the end of that, and you've got a standardized calibrated gauge. Or you can do it with a tape measure. But PVC honestly will lay down the weeds far easier than a tape measure. So, little tip for you if you need to do some fencing. And I'll just mention I've been doing maintenance on the tractor, and it is kicking my butt. So I've done car maintenance for 25 something years, and everything, you know, is 4, 5, 6 quarts of oil. When it comes to heavy equipment like this, it becomes gallons of fluid. So if you don't have a big drain pan for oil to go in, like the transmission alone is 9 gallons of fluid, it's time to start investing in bigger pieces. So that's something I've got to do to finish up the maintenance, is get the transmission done. I've already done the engine, the 4-wheel drive diff, and now I've got this last piece for the service on it. And then it's ready to keep on trucking. Now, if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, you've already seen that we are building up 2 new birdhouses. Now, this will be for the chickens, 1 house for chickens, 1 for the waterfowl, which is geese and ducks. So these are drilled in with the PTO off the tractor, and obviously the foundation is done. I guess you'd say the structural pieces. So it's up, it's erected up. We need to put in the rest of the side pieces. So if I pan around here a little bit more to the closer one, you can see the rafters are in. Some of the side pieces are in, and then this is going to be almost a duplicate of what we have for the turkeys that we've had almost 2 years in. This will be the last, well, I hope I say last, probably one of the last few projects that we build here. We've still got to do a equipment shed for the tractor and the ATV and the other stuff to go in. But these will be some of the last few buildings that we put on the property, and then finish fencing, and hopefully in maybe 2 years, we will be done and enjoying homesteading, just maintenance versus construction.
And we are working on bird houses. We're working on a waterfowl pen and some chicken barns. That is my dad on the tractor and Caden running the auger, or trying to keep it straight. And they are working on the holes for the waterfowl pen. We've already done the one for the chicken house. Alright, you can hear the tractor running in the background. That is the site of our chicken house. It's going to be 12 by 20 and should hold 9 or 10 different sets of breeding birds. We only run trios or quads, so smaller pens. So yeah, I've got to get over there and start cleaning out the holes. And there's the nephew guarding our dog. He had a tooth pulled yesterday, so he is on a weightlifting restriction at the moment. So he's doing what he can, but his abilities today are kind of limited, so he's kind of hanging out at the moment. He just helped me get fiberglass off the trailer, so we'll see what else he can get to today. Okay, so last time we had one of these updates, we talked about the fact that we had lost a mama rabbit, and this is Gurley, who took in a couple orphans for us, and I am pleased to report that not only did those two make it, but her 9 also survived. You can see these 2 little blue magpies down here in this corner are both the little orphans that she took in. They're doing just fine, and we've got lots of other babies going on in here, but just wanted to give an update on the little orphans. So it's been in the 90s, and actually yesterday was 95. Our recording station, our little weather thing, actually recorded 100 degrees here. So a lot of people ask me, how do we keep the rabbits cool in this kind of heat? Because of course rabbits are really finicky about heat. You can kind of see behind me, we run an oscillating fan and 2 misters in each one of the buildings. And of course we built these things to have patio doors on each end, or screen doors rather, so that we could open it up for maximum airflow. So basically between the 2 misters and the fan, we can blow cool air from one end to the other. Yesterday when it was 100 degrees, my thermometer in here was reading 85. That's still pretty warm for rabbits, but when you consider 15 degrees off of outside temperature, it's a huge difference. Before we were having trouble, if you can kind of see the roof, we've actually put 1-inch insulated foil-backed board over the roof, because we just run your standard fiberglass roof and it would get hot, and we would actually get surface temperatures of about 120 degrees. And of course that would seep into the rabbit barn. So when we put the foil on there and the insulated board, started running the fans, we're now able to keep the barns much, much cooler. And cool rabbits are happy rabbits. Well, this is one of our big brooders, and we've moved some turkeys off of the heat, so these guys are actually getting ready to go up for sale. So we've got some blue slates, some midget white crosses, and some Narragansetts. These guys are all around 4 to 6 weeks, so they are ready for new homes. Kind of a big deal that we found in selling birds. A lot of people want a couple of turkeys, but not a lot of people have brooders. So a new thing that we're doing this year is trying to raise them up to off heat, so that these guys are more pasture ready. We can get them sold and get them out. Apparently somebody already thinks he's going to strut. So these guys will hopefully go up for sale and be on their way out of here in the next week. Well, in the last 2 weeks, I've finally gotten around to putting some cages together. I actually bought these big boys back in January at a rabbit show and hauled them home, and just have not had any time. These are a 30 by 36 stacker split in half. So you get 2 18 by 30s. These are going to be for grow outs mostly, very young show rabbits. The holes are a little small for my breeders. These are made by KW Cages, and been trying to get them together. There's 6 altogether. I've got 3 done, so I'm going to get the next 3 done. And hopefully off into the rabbit barn and installed in the next 2 weeks. Well, we're pretty much done with our kidding season, with the exception of Angel, our old girl, who we think actually miscarried about 2 months ago, or 3 months ago. Who we actually left the buck in and think has rebred. Everybody has pretty much kidded out. This is our last little girl out of Ruby. Isn't she a beauty? So we ended up at present with 13 kids. Most of which are actually girls. We ended up with, if I remember right, 5 boys. And 1 set of triplets who are outside, it looks like, with mom. We'll go outside and get a picture of them. But everybody else had singles or twins, which is kind of unusual for us. But we also had some exceptionally big babies. We had, this is our first year using our Nubian bucks, so we had some very, very large Nubian kids. And yeah, so we're about done. So in about 2 months, the first of these kids will go up for sale. We are going to keep a couple of them. We're keeping this beautiful little Nubian doe here, and wherever he went, our great big black Nubian buck there. That's Walter. We're going to go ahead and keep Walter for a breeder for next year. So a couple that'll stay, but most everybody else will be heading out for new homes.
Go.
All right, so that is Carmela. She is our oldest doe, and one of only 3 purebred Nigerians that we have. And you can kind of see before the herd comes in, our 1 set of triples. She gave us a little buck and 2 does. One of the does will probably stay, and we're having the debate on whether or not the cute little buck with the white face there, if Cannon can get him, is gonna stay. They are 3/4 Nigerian dwarf. Dad does have a little boar blood, so we're thinking he might actually stay to be a future buck from next year.
The last thing I'll show you today before the goats overtake me and knock me down is that this is the last pasture that we're going to do the temporary pasture. So I showed you the fence line back way down there of where we're going to put in the permanent, and then right here, this one right here, is the secondary permanent, which will be done with wire this fall. My goodness, are you serious? So anyway, this will be the last temporary one, and then we're going to start moving them out because we've got them all the way out. So if I show you those panels back there, that's almost at the property line, the fence line. Goats. So we're going to start moving to the south, which will be that way, starting moving out to our property line, and that will be it. So they've got grass, and then we got about another 2 weeks before we need to buy. Thank you. Thank you for eating my hand. So anyway, that's it for this time on Sprague River Homestead. Now I will remind you that we do a lot of this stuff all the time. So if you have questions on why we do stuff a certain way, on tips on how to make this stuff easier, if you haven't done fencing or building barns or bird houses or goats or anything else, and you have questions, feel free to drop us a line, either a comment on any of our videos, send us a direct message, anything like that. We'll be glad to help you and explain why we do stuff a certain way, and you can decide if that's how you want to do your homestead or even an in-town garden or something else. We'll be glad to share everything we've learned in the last decade of trying to do this ourselves. So that's it for this time. We will see you next time from Sprague River Homestead.
To see what happens next, how far can we get if we sail a little bit high, a little bit low? How far can we get if we sail